For years now, movie studios and their paid media allies have been trying to dismiss any legitimate criticism being levied against them by saying, like, well, they're just a bunch of ists and phobes. You don't need to pay attention to them. Never mind the fact that you won't hear this type of criticism with other franchises with built-in fan bases. It's only theirs that have the ists and phobes surrounding them for some reason. And it's gotten so bad where even the actors have been trying to be openly antagonistic towards the fans because, you know, when you're doing something that you know isn't going to do well, you try to rile up the fans. So when it does inevitably fail, you can just say that's the reason why it failed. It's all these racists and sexists online that cause it to fail, which is obviously given a lot of power to the fans. But now we're starting to see the media kind of side with the racist fans because we got this article from Variety kind of calling out Marvel and DC and saying, like, no, they've just been producing bad movies now. Comic book movie culture didn't just stumble this year, it face planted, giving us one movie after another that fans didn't much care about and that the corporations backing these films took a disquieting loss on. I'm not going to act like this is the first time that any media outlets ever called out these studios, but usually whenever they call them out, it's kind of like, well, this is just the box office result. It's an objective fact, so we can't really try to mask it and say it did well. And they always try to muddy the waters and say it's some other reason is why it failed, like, you know, because of COVID, there's competition in the theaters. You know, you hear all that stuff, but right here in this article, they're literally saying it's because the movies they've been putting out are bad. Why in 2023 did this happen? The analysis that has mostly been offered is simple. The movie company served up mediocre superhero product. If it had just been one or two duds, the situation might have been explained away. But when you think back on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium and Shazam! Fury of the Gods and The Flash and The Marvels and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, the pattern is clear. It's not simply a Marvel thing or a DC thing. The primal thrill and popularity of comic book movie culture took a major hit. This article does, though, come across as a bit self-aggrandizing by trying to suggest that audiences are just now catching up to critics, and a lot of that stems from the fact that critics usually give comic book movies lower scores than what audiences do. Never mind the fact that critics will also give shows like She-Hulk positive scores, whereas audiences tend to not like it. But with the new year coming up, a lot of people are wondering what are they actually going to do to fix it, and some people will think they're kind of on the right track with limiting the amount of stuff that they're putting out. Heading into 2024, Marvel seems fully committed to adopting a less is more approach. The studio is set to release an uncharacteristically small number of new titles. Never mind the fact that they're not releasing fewer things in 24 because they learned their lesson and they don't want to oversaturate the market, but they're releasing fewer things because of strikes and caused everything to be delayed so long that they have to push everything back to 25. Because when you look at 25, they have 5 movies that are scheduled to be released, or at least a rumored 5th movie, and 3 series for Disney Plus. So that doesn't look like they've actually learned their lesson. It looks like they're trying to get right back to business as usual. The only lesson I would say that they've probably learned from this is they're going to be spending less money because they've been bombing so badly that they need to try to get their budgets under control in order to try to hope to turn a profit. But I don't think what they're going to do is going to be enough to return the MCU to where it was back in 2019 when it peaked with Endgame. Now, some people are saying the upcoming Echo series is on the right course, or at least it's trying to fix things. And I do admit that there is some stuff with it that I like, but there's also another stuff with it that I don't like. This recent promo that they released, I thought was pretty cringe, but you know, I like Netflix's Daredevil. I think that was the best thing that the MCU actually produced. So maybe trying to return to that would be a good approach, but I think it's too little too late, and I don't think they can actually pull it off. Really, the biggest problem with the MCU is just the creative decisions they've been making behind the scenes, because just imagine this. The MCU is based off of the Marvel comics, and those have a really devoted fan base to them. Imagine there was something that you really like let's say just a burger place. You want a burger, so you're like, I'm going to go to my favorite burger place and get one. You go there and the manager there is like, you know what? I want to subvert people's expectations. I don't want to give them burgers. I want to give them spaghetti. It's like, okay, you might like spaghetti. So you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm here. I'll eat it anyway. But other people are like, well, I like burgers. I didn't want spaghetti, so I'm going to go somewhere else. And then they get accused of being a bigot and racist against Italians or something like that, whatever. But that's pretty much what's been happening. They've been trying to make these changes just because you got people behind the scenes working on these properties that don't actually know the source material, don't even like the source material. And they're like, you know, I just want to use this as a jumping off point to do my own thing because it has the built-in fan base. I couldn't tell my own story on my own, so I'm just going to try to hijack something else and tell it. The fans have been speaking out for years, and now they just kind of abandoned to be like, you know, if you're not going to serve us what we want, then we're going to go somewhere else. And if they'd be like, okay, we learned our lesson, we're going to start serving burgers now. It's like, well, too late. We found another place that we can go to. And I think that's what's happened now. And it's pretty much too little too late for the MCU. And if that's what superhero fatigue is, and so be it. It's pretty much done. And let's just try to figure out what to watch next.